So I'm Manoj Malde. I used to be in the fashion industry for 18 years, and now I'm designing gardens. And I'm also an ambassador for the RHS for inclusivity and diversity. So first of all, thanks for having me here. Can everyone hear me right at the back? Cool, brilliant. Right, so I believe we're all connected to nature. Being born in the Jain religion, we believe in reincarnation. The wheel of life. Anyone watch Lion King? It's like a chain link. One link gets damaged and the whole chain is affected. But here's a little note. Listening to the other speakers speak, it suddenly made me think, we've come this far as a human race, but actually we've gone backwards in many ways. In the Mughal era, the hijras, and I don't know if everyone knows what hijras are, the eunuchs, they were the transgender people in India. They played an enormously important role in the Mughal royal households because they were the only people who were allowed to actually go from the men's quarters to the women's quarters. The women were in purdah, so men were not allowed in the women's quarters. So the way the communication happened was via the hijras, the eunuchs. So they played an incredibly important role in the Mughal royal courts. And I'm sure many of you know that actually even in the Greek and Roman times, homosexuality existed and it was actually very normal. No, nobody, we bat our eyelids at, oh my God, he's gay, or she's a lesbian. Actually, in those times, nobody cared two pennies. Well, I was going to say something quite rude there, but nobody gave a damn. So it's incredible how we've gone so backwards in the way we look at the gay community. Not we, but as the world. My connection with nature started as a child helping my brother set up a veggie plot at the back of my parents' garden, and he recruited myself and my brother Raj. Now, my husband and I, and gosh, that sounds a bit royal, doesn't it? We'll get the tiaras out later. Clive, who's sitting here, we have two gardens. So we have a garden here at our house, but we also have a beautiful garden on a Greek island where we garden in harsh conditions, but our heart is very much there. We have views of the sea and a landscape that is covered in hummocks of Euphorbia dendroides. And in fact, at this time of the year, that is going to be looking absolutely lush. And we absolutely love that. Being gay was an innate feeling, is an innate feeling, an inbuilt emotion. I was born gay, and I'm bloody proud of it. But racism and homophobia were not a natural sense to me. I learned about homophobia and racism when I arrived to the UK as a child of 6 and as I grew up in this country. Now, imagine being abused for the colour of your skin and your sexuality, and I'm sure that there are people who have experienced some of that here. And racism works both ways in this country. Let's not fool ourselves that racism only works against coloured people. I recently heard a black lady on Piers Morgan's show saying, I can't be racist because I'm black. Oh, madam, You so can, and you so are. Let's not fool ourselves. Racism does work both ways. And I have seen people of colour being racist to people of non-colour. So it's a two-way street. I'm not saying it's right. In fact, it isn't right. But it's not right the other way around either. To those bullies and racists and homophobes, I thank you. You made me the person that I am. The person that stands here today in front of all of these people to be able to talk about my experiences. I stand here stronger and resilient. I could have let them consume me to the point where life was no longer worth living. And yes, there have been days where I have felt very dark and lonely, but I was not going to allow that to happen, and I wasn't certainly not going to allow them to win. It is not what we say, but what we don't say. Actions and body language speak louder than words and are far more telling. Something else that I have experienced within the industry. I've experienced that feeling of exclusion because of my skin colour, because I have my own individual style of dressing, as you can see, because I'm not the young, pretty white boy with a mop of dark curls, and I'm certainly not named Tom, Owen, or Hugo. And I refuse to be a sheep. In fact, doing my first garden at the Chelsea Flower Show, called Beneath a Mexican Sky, someone said to me, "Don't expect the judges to understand your garden. It isn't Chelsea." But I continued with what I believed in, and that is what made my garden stand out. And I'm proud to say that 9 years later, that garden still gets talked about. It has appeared on 2 front covers of magazines and has been published in books. On a management training course, we were taught that if you have an issue, highlight that issue, but also go with a solution. Even if the solution is wrong, you are far more likely to receive help. I've carried this notion with me everywhere. When sitting on a panel talk about diversity and inclusivity to an industry audience, I had to bring their mob attitude to a quick close. They all sat there accusing the RHS of being elitist, but not one of them managed to bring a solution to the table. More importantly, they had done nothing to make that same situation right in their own organisations, but were very happy to point fingers at another. We are all part of this industry. We have a responsibility to find positive solutions for all. We are the guardians, so let's leave a greater legacy behind for future generations. I had the opportunity to do a talk with Keith Weed. He'd requested a meeting with me. I don't know if everyone knows who Keith Weed is. Keith Weed is the president of the RHS. So when he took his seat as president, he requested a meeting with me, which I was lucky enough to have. My advice is, if you want change, then be part of something where you can bring positive change from the inside. Don't be on the outside criticising. This is what I did. That led to me becoming an RHS ambassador for the RHS ambassador for inclusivity and diversity. And it is my duty to constantly question and make the RHS think that, are they doing the right thing? I'm also there to suggest ideas of how things can be improved. Now, I'm going to read you a letter that a young lady handed to me at one of my talks, and she asked me to read it when I got home. Hi, Manoj. I get embarrassed to approach people sometimes because of my autism. So rather than say something weird and autishy out loud, I thought I'd write you a note. It's just to say that I am so grateful for your presence in the horticultural world. You're a great ambassador for the South Asian community and those of us with LGBTQ family. And as many of us newbies try to navigate the decolonization of this industry, the representation you give us means we know we are not alone. I don't think I would have come back into garden design without you. For me, leadership doesn't come through being a manager, a director, or a CEO. Leadership comes through how you help nurture people. We can all do that. Treat people as people. Look beyond the color of their skin, race, religion, sexuality, disabilities, and help them find ways to help themselves. That way, we create a positive, healthy, happier environment which people are proud to be a part of. A few years ago, a friend of mine gently started opening up to me about himself. When I first met him, my gaydar antenna had deducted that he was part of the family. But he remained closeted. He is of a generation where they tried to do the honourable thing. Got married, had children. Successful businessman, but really unhappy in his own personal life. I encourage him to be open and honest with himself and to seek his own happiness, always listening, but never judging. This boosted his courage to do the right thing by his family and himself. He is now in a much happier place, settled into a new relationship with his partner. I look at him now and he stands taller, almost like a boulder has been lifted off his back. He is so much more alive. So I'd like to leave you with a quote by Maya Angelou. Be a rainbow in someone else's cloud. So let's all go out there and be a rainbow. That's it.